So I tried to live in my ideal world where I could actually stop talking about COVID-19. And then, of course, the Corona Relief Bill passed, so here we are. Alrighty, so today, obviously, we are going to be talking about the COVID-19 or coronavirus relief bill that recently passed through the Senate. Unfortunately, I am not the most adept person at reading legalese, and on top of that, the actual document is 1,200 pages long. I will be linking the document in the description, but I am no expert in parsing through stuff like this. I generally go through scientific papers, and this is a little different. And as a result, I'm going to go ahead and get somebody who is much more versed in doing this. I'm going to go ahead and grab my friend Nathaniel. Nathaniel! Hey, Nathaniel, hey.
The hell, Suris? Why are you in my computer
Yes,
again?
I am. Yeah, there's an old video on my channel, quantum physics, Prophet Azad portals, all kinds of stuff. Basically, I'm here, I need help. A bill passed through the Senate recently. It was the coronavirus relief bill, and I am not the best person at reading through stuff like that. This is more your department, so I figured I would go ahead and ask your help.
Well, good news, Suris. I was actually just reading it, and I imagine that you and your viewers are going to be happy, but also some of you are not going to be very happy at all. But yes, it's been fun to read.
Gotcha. All right, so for those who don't know, this is Nathaniel. He has worked with me on several projects before on my channel, and if you want to go see more of his content when you're done with this, then please check out the Divine Disbelief channel. That will be in the description below.
Yeah, thanks, Suris. Now, the name of this document is actually the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, but because the U.S. government is so good at acronyms, they call it the CARES Act. This is kind of like the Department of Defense, right? Where they say that it's Department of Defense and they're defending stuff, but in fact, they're just illegally invading countries and, basically taking $700 billion of ours. This is the same thing, and to where they basically want to make it seem like they care, but then you realize, no, they don't. So here is how it breaks down, Suris. If you are a single adult above the age of 18, you will receive a $1,200 check. It's not taxed or anything, and you don't have to put it on your income tax return. Don't worry. One time, a check of $1,200 from the U.S. government. If you are married, however that's legally defined in your state, you're going to receive $2,400. Now, don't worry about sparsing that out too much because it's $1,200 or it's $2,400. Basically, if there are 2 adults living in your home, you're going to get $2,400. If there's 8 adults, do the math. I don't know. It's more. If you have a dependent living in your home who is under the age of 17, you'll receive $500 for each one of them. There also are stipulations for like adoption and things like that. There's little things you have to fill out in case you have or are in the process of adopting somebody. In order to receive that money, you'd have to fill out some extra paperwork and stuff as well. The way that works, obviously, if you're unlike me and you make $75,000 a year, you're going to receive a percentage less than I would, and that will drop down every percentage point as you get up to $99,000 per year. Anything above $99,000, that flat 99, doesn't receive anything.
And basically, I think that's mainly because if you are making that much money, chances are you've been able to create yourself a cushion fund, whereas most of us that live paycheck to paycheck don't even know what that is.
No idea. And if you can't, if you get mad because you make $99,000 a year and you don't get any money, why don't you have any money? Didn't you just buy an iPhone?
I've heard that kind of rhetoric when somebody's like, wait, why don't you have any money? Don't you have a tattoo? Like, wow, it's almost as if nuance is a thing. I'm glad that you lived in my head and understood everything that I've ever done. So the next question becomes, what does this mean for people who are on unemployment? Because obviously that would be a little bit different.
Sure, and it certainly is, and there are quite a few little things put in here. And when I was making notes for this, and Suris can tell you this, when I was making notes, I had it in number 2, and then I put it into A, B, and C, and I realized that wasn't enough. And then it's in like Roman numerals, and I'm certain I probably could have put it down to something else as well. In fact, so much so, I don't know what characters are after the Roman numeral. I did my best to make this as easy to understand as possible. If you want to read it, I think Suris said that he speaking with him, he's going to link it somewhere. Feel free. The way this breaks down with unemployment, those who are receiving unemployment will receive an additional $600 per week on top of their current benefits from the state over 17 weeks, basically 4 months. And it's just, I think it's 17.38 weeks, right? It's an addition. Again, it's not tax or anything. There's no percentage. Likely means that everybody is going to receive what would pretty much be their regular pay. So if you make, a certain amount of money and you're only getting like $335 or something of that nature from the state when it comes to unemployment, this amount would likely bring it up to what you would be making per hour. There are some places where it's not going to be the case, but across the country, this is actually higher than the average, which is really nice. And this also raises what those receive in unemployment from every single state up from the average, which is anywhere from $200 up to $550, depending on your state. If your state is like where Suris lives, anybody currently applying for unemployment would receive a maximum of $330 per week. This nearly doubles that. To give you an idea of what that looks like, the state of Georgia allows for your $330 per week. They allow it for 20 weeks. This, remember, goes for 17 weeks. There is a provision to push it to 39 weeks right now, but it's not. That's not something that was included in the final bill. At 20 weeks, you would receive more than $6,600. In relation to this, the stimulus with the unemployment at $600 a week for these 17 weeks or 4 months, you would receive $10,428, or just about $10,500. So obviously, that's substantially more. Now, there's a likelihood again that they're going to add that additional 17 weeks, right, to bring it up to that 34 weeks. And the total current allocation for this is $250 billion. Now, Suris, I did the math on this because we had 3.3 million people apply for unemployment last week alone. That's a record, if you're wondering. I think the previous to that was 1982. So before Suris was alive, and whether or not you believe this, also before I was alive, it was in the 600,000.
But the economy is booming. It has never been better. Under my presidency, I would rank myself a 10 out of 10. The economy is doing better. It has never been better. Never, ever.
I don't think that's true, Suris. Even if it's just those 3.3 million people, the 250 billion, you'll kind of see, is not going to be enough for unemployment by itself to cover the amount of Americans who are going to need it for an extended period of time, which could be pushed up to December 31st or all the way out to December 31st. But how do you know if you qualify? This is a really great question. So for unemployment folks, now, did you pay taxes? Have you paid taxes in the past 2 years? One of the past 2 years? If yes, you're going to get $1,200. That's pretty much it. The unemployment thing, if you are approved, good news, you will receive benefits immediately. Instead of waiting, there's a mandated waiting period usually of a week in every single state. Right now, they're basically waiving that, and they're saying if you're approved, you're going to get it immediately. Are you furloughed, like the 60,000 Hilton employees that were furloughed today? You will receive the full amount. Furloughed employees, like some of them at Hilton, are still going to receive benefits as well. So even though they qualify for unemployment, they're still receiving their benefits from Hilton, which is actually not the worst thing that could happen to somebody. What if you are part-time? So a friend of mine made the maybe bad luck choice a couple of weeks ago of moving from full-time to part-time at his job, which I believe he signed off just before his company went to some really restricted hours, and he's not been working. But because he moved to part-time, will he, in the event that he is laid off, will he receive any of these unemployment benefits? Well, maybe. there's actually not anything clear in the bill as to whether a person will receive any of it. Many states don't allow for part-time unemployment, so there's not any precedent set for this. The answer should be yes, they're going to receive fucking money. They're going to receive the same thing that you would get as if you were laid off as any other employee. In fact, the fact that part-time employees, in my opinion, Suris, don't receive the exact same amount of benefits, the exact same amount of health care, the exact same amount of paid time off, the exact same amount of sick leave. None of these motherfuckers apparently care to give paternal leave, much less maternal leave, especially for part-time employees. In my opinion, they should receive all of that already. But if you were part-time, hopefully, and that's what I told my friend. He messaged me today and he said, hey, what do you think about the stimulus thing? And I was like, hey, remember, when did you tell me you went to part-time? And I was like, oh, well, I hope you're okay. And I don't want to say that to people, Suris. And this is where it might upset some of you. Were you unemployed prior to the pandemic, or were you unable to find work because of it? If you're disqualified for unemployment, you're disqualified. So basically, I think the date for that was February 21st or something like that. I have to look back at the bill and see. But if you are unemployed prior to this cutoff date and you're just still trying to find work, even though the reason you can't find work is because there's a fucking pandemic, you don't qualify. What if you're a sole proprietor or an independent contractor, like a gig worker, or Suris, like you, like somebody that makes content on the internet? Well, you're hopefully covered. There is a plan for you to be covered. Hopefully, again, I say that. If not, you can always apply for a loan, Suris. It's the first 84 pages of this fucking document. So you can apply for a loan that interest will be, stretched out to, I think, September of 2021. And you won't have to worry about repayments. And there won't be any kind of, government trying to come after you until like September of 2021. So that would be good.
I mean, that would be great. At the same time, I don't think giving people loans in the middle of a financial crisis should be even a thought.
Well, need I remind you that this bill originally was written specifically and exclusively, he said, using the correct terms, by Republicans. So, I don't want to say they don't care about you, Suris, but Dan Patrick in Texas specifically said that he'd be willing to die to make sure that the economy is okay for his grandkids. So I don't think they really care. That, I guess, sacrifice the old and the weak, or if you're a Republican, your voter base. Now, if you are already receiving sick pay or what they call other paid leave benefits, this is where you're talking about maternal leave, or if you have what is known as, quote, the ability to telework, which I'm certain is not very broad at all, you are ineligible. So if you can do like customer service from your home, I guess, or Amazon from your house. I don't know, if you have a computer and a headset, you can't do this. You're not going to get any unemployment because you could get a job. Because there is stuff in there that says if you're filing for unemployment, you have to show through your state agency, just like you do right now, that you are at least trying to find work. To which Nathaniel replied, where the fuck you want me to work? Now, something that is pretty good, if you receive Medicaid and CHIP right now, the amount is not factored into the amount you will receive for your government benefits. This is a change from the current guidelines. This goes in I think until the end of the year, which is pretty good. Now, on the flip side of that, states are not required to accept this assistance because the money, and this is actually part of the thing that should kind of stress some folks out, especially if you are in states with a large population, New York, California, Texas, Florida, places like that. Oregon actually already has had an issue with this. The money that will go to each of the individuals that are receiving unemployment from the U.S. government goes to the state. It's the Treasury lets that go and it goes to the states, and then the states then actually send that out to however they will distribute their unemployment. The states currently are, let's just say, Suris, they're not equipped for 3.3 million weekly new unemployment claims. These things that Texas already, or New York, already they crashed their servers and they had to put new stuff in there. So it's going to the states. But the states don't have to actually say, okay, we'll do this. This means that your state could be one of the 14 states who did not accept Medicare expansion from the Affordable Care Act. Looking at you, Texas, and most of the American South. Also, Wisconsin for some crazy. Now, the registration period as it stands now is April 1st to July 31st. That's going to be extended, obviously. With that being said, that's just for the unemployment. What I'm guessing is that this will not be implemented until after April 1st, which kind of makes sense. If you are an undocumented immigrant who pays taxes, you are eligible. If you didn't pay taxes, well, sorry. Or here's a list: domestic workers that are paid in cash, undocumented workers, homeless Americans, people who do not have bank account. And again, if you haven't filed taxes.
If you're homeless and you desperately need money, this bill really doesn't care about you.
Those individuals, by the way, won't get either of these. Even if you're paid with cash and you are unemployed, from your employer lays you off, you still don't get anything. Please always do what you can to ensure that you have that paper trail that you are receiving money. This is kind of fun. If you have a retirement package, remember last week when the government told us in order for us to pay our bills that they would say, hey, we'll let you take it out of your 401k, to which I said, why the fuck should I have to dip into my retirement fund because you're not willing to help Americans? As it turns out, if you receive this money and you hold on to it for up to 3 years, you can put this money into your retirement package. So if you have a 401k that you've dipped into already, hey, guess what? The government's going to give you, some unemployment that you can put into your 401k. You're welcome from the government, I guess. So they can tax you on it later. So those are really, that's really the stuff with unemployment. There's a lot of stipulations. There's actually more to it than that, Suris. Especially with gig workers and stuff, which I think that you qualify as something like that, right? Or something of that nature.
If you are a YouTube content creator, then you actually receive a 1099 miscellaneous tax form, which essentially means that you are somewhat of a contract worker, kind of. Although there is one thing that I wanted to point out on the notion of 401ks, it's really interesting that you can pull out of your 401k to pay your bills, but your 401ks are tied with the stock market, and the stock market is currently experiencing some of its lowest times ever, so you'd effectively be pulling money that would otherwise potentially grow again in your 401k to pay your bills now, thus making your 401k even less viable to protect you in the future, which, by the way, your 22nd human right is Social Security. I have a video about this coming out, or it is already out.
That's very true. So you could see if you look at the amount in your 401k this week, it might not be the same as it was last week. So Suris, we could do a video on 401k. So that's a lot of the unemployment stuff. If anybody would like, by the way, you can get a hold of me on Twitter, and I can let you know some of the other like nitty-gritty stuff. But beyond that, there are other things that are tied to this stimulus. The Department of Education is suspending student loan payments without penalty through September 30th, which last week they agreed to extend it for 60 days without interest. Now it's being extended without interest up until September 30th. I imagine, Suris, that's going to go actually longer than that. And then something that's actually kind of important is that there is if you're looking to fly, if you're looking to get on an airplane, please don't right now. They're looking to, you have to get a real ID, REAL, it's in all caps, in order to fly. They extended that deadline out to September of 2021. So what this is, for those of you that don't know, it's a federally mandated identification that's required for anybody looking to get onto an airplane. Period, at all. It doesn't matter where. The original date for this was the beginning of October. And if you don't know if you have one of those, if you don't, it's a TSA approved. All you have to do is check your license or ID. And if there is a gold or black star on there, you're good. And most states have already updated that. They actually update them whenever you renew your ID or your license. I think 48 of 50 states. There are 50 states, right? I didn't fuck that up. But there are still probably between, it's the same number of people, between like 30 and 40 million haven't paid taxes the past 2 years. And that's the amount of people who may not receive any of the benefits in this. There's also about the same number of people who may not have updated their IDs yet. And now you can, if you have a passport, you can do that. But if you don't have this ID and you try to get on an airplane after next September, you won't be able to get on. They'll just tell you, fuck off and go and get a real ID. So about 90% of Americans overall are going to be eligible to receive that, these benefits that are coming from the government, whether it be the one-time payment of $1,200 or the $600 for unemployment on top of what they already get. Now, the qualifying income levels, if you're wondering about that, are based on 2019 returns, if you've already returned them in, or it's on your 2018 if you haven't. Now, I know that they extended that. I think Mnuchin said he extended something out. I don't know. Mnuchin also said that that this isn't, the people that haven't paid taxes, this isn't really a big deal because it's not very many of them. If you consider 30 to 40 million people not a big deal, okay, that's only like 10% of the US population. He also said that these checks will be sent or deposited into your accounts and our accounts within 2 weeks. Don't count on it. Basically, if the government tells you that anything's going to happen quickly, no, they're fucking lying to you. You could be looking at waiting until May to get these. I don't know about you, but I have bills to pay in March and I have bills to pay in April. So why is this going to wait until May? Well, because the gears of the government turn slowly. This is actually something that was put in place on purpose so that nobody rushed through anything. I guess they really didn't consider, pandemics to be something that they should rush through, but this is also written by people who thought bloodletting was a good thing, for those of you who don't know. And so in 2008, it took up to 3 months to receive any benefit. Remember from that stimulus, right? Those that had authorized direct deposit into their bank account likely received their money faster. Those were made over a 3-week period. Paper checks took up to 10 weeks to get to folks. Likely be quicker this year because 88% of Americans filed in 2018 and 2019 filed on the internet. So likely going to go quite a bit quicker there. The plan was almost not passed. Now, if you don't know, it went 96-0. It almost was not passed because people like Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, he decided to let folks know that he thought paying people a livable wage was awful. He said, this bill pays you more not to work than if you were working. You're literally incentivizing taking people out of the workforce at a time when we need critical infrastructure supplied with workers. Where would you like them to go work, Lindsey? Republicans even forced a Wednesday evening vote on an amendment to cap the benefits at the 100% that's given by the states. And this is the reason they didn't vote until 1 a.m. I think your time, right? But then Vermont Senator and presidential candidate Bernie Sanders did a 10-minute speech on the House floor where he said, not only are you going to get your regular, we're going to add another $600 a week to it. He says, that's a great thing. That's a great thing about this bill. And he said, and now I find some of my Republican colleagues are very distressed. They're upset that somebody who is making $10 an hour might end up with a paycheck for 4 months more than they received last week. Oh my God, the universe is collapsing.
And now I find that some of my Republican colleagues are very distressed. They're very upset that somebody who's making $10, $12 an hour might end up with a paycheck for 4 months more than they received last week. Oh my God, the universe is collapsing. Imagine that. Somebody who's making $12 an hour now, like the rest of us, faces an unprecedented economic crisis with the $600 on top of their regular unemployment check, might be making a few bucks more for 4 months. Oh my word! Will the universe survive? How absurd and wrong is that? What kind of value system is that? Meanwhile, these very same folks had no problem a couple of years ago voting for $1 trillion in tax breaks for billionaires and large profitable corporations. Not a problem. But when it comes to low-income workers in the midst of a terrible crisis, maybe some of them earning or having more money than they previously made. Oh my word, we got to strip that out. Got to tell those poor people that no matter what. By the way, when the McConnell bill first came up, unbelievably, and I know many Republicans objected to this, they were saying that, well, we want to give whatever it was, $1,000 or $1,200, but poor people should get less. You see, because poor people are down here, they don't deserve, they don't eat, they don't pay rent, they don't go to the doctor, they're somehow inferior because they're poor, we're going to give them less. Well, that was addressed. Now everybody is going to get the $1,200, but some of my Republican friends still have not given up on the need to punish the poor and working people. You haven't raised the minimum wage in 10 years. Minimum wage should be at least $15 an hour. You haven't done that. You've cut program after program after program, and now, horror of horrors, for 4 months, workers might be earning a few bucks more than they otherwise went.
This is page 203 of the bill, and this is what it says. Section 461, section 461, parts 1 and 2 of the Internal Revenue Code of '86 is amended by striking a net operating loss carryover to the following taxable year under Section 172 and inserting a net operating loss for the taxable year for purpose of determining any net operating loss carryover under Section 172B for subsequent taxable years. I'm reading this on purpose, by the way, for a reason. But what it goes on to say, in such excess shall be determined without regard to any deductions, gross income, or gains of attributable or to any trade or business of performing services of an employee. What that means, and there's more to it than that, but what that means is, through all the crazy wording, if investors had losses in real estate, they can use those losses to minimize or eliminate altogether profits they put into investments, like investments in the stock market. Here's why this matters. What investors and property owners do is they depreciate the value of their property year by year, thus lessening their tax burden, they call it. This allowed them to be able to take hefty tax breaks. This is how Donald Trump didn't pay taxes for 1 million fucking years, or ever, allegedly. This allowed them to get rich while making it seem like their property was generating more revenue based on the depreciated age of their buildings or their investments. Now, one of the few positive aspects of the 2017 tax cut package is that it limited the amount of losses which could be claimed at $500,000. Well, I wish I could claim a loss of $500,000, but any additional money went to claims in future years. Sure, that could roll over into future years and you could end up making that much money anyways, but you couldn't do it that same year. The big issue with this part of the stimulus is that it limits those restrictions for this year and the past 2 years, which goes back to before the 2017 stuff was signed. And it means they can take what they've rolled together and put it into each year, making billions of dollars. Two people who stand to benefit from this outside of the oil and gas industries are Jared Kushner and Donald Trump.
Not that he would know that, because he's not going to fucking read it.
It's 1,000 pages long, Suris. He's not going to read past the first word, you think?
His favorite book, not counting Art of the Deal, is the Bible. And his favorite passage is all of it. All of it. Every bit.
On page 174 of this, a business can donate any monies received and write them off, thus making more money without paying additional taxes because they donate them, and it is a tax write-off, and they make billions of dollars there as well. Because of course they do, because businesses are more important. Now the bill passed the Senate 96-0, which we went over. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said, "What is important is for us to recognize the good that is in the bill and appreciate it for what it does. Don't judge it for what it doesn't, because we have more bills to come." What she had originally written, Suris, and something you sent me when we first started talking about this, the House Democrats did, was they asked for more money than the 1,200. They didn't get that. They asked for there to be green restrictions on airlines. They didn't get that. But what they did get was more money. They jumped over the original 100% cap, right? They were able to do that. And they were able to ensure that even if you're undocumented, as long as you pay taxes, which most, was it over 50 or 60% do, which I guess counts as most, right? And so there were other things that were in there. And she makes a very good point, Suris, when she says this is the second one already, and there will be more to come. Any economist I think that I've read about this so far has said very specifically that we're at just the tip of the iceberg overall. We zoomed past Italy and China today for most cases overall, as well as the most cases in a single day of coronavirus. And we're just getting started. And so we're going to have more bills like this to come. And there's only so much that businesses can say before people like AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, said, I just don't understand how it's reasonable to expect what could be millions of people and small businesses who suddenly had their incomes cut off to pay rent, mortgages, and major bills on April 1st without any payment moratoriums or immediate relief. And that makes sense, because if we have to wait until May and we're only getting one check of $1,200, I'm still quote unquote working from home, at least today. If we're only getting this one check for $1,200, what else do you expect me to do? And I think that's my problem with it. $1,200 is nothing. My rent is $1,200. So there are good things that come out of this, Suris. It's going to help people that are filing for unemployment. $1,200 is $1,200. Businesses aren't the only people that need this money, and they got more than we did. So there's, and we didn't even get into that, but that's okay, because this is important for folks to know. What are you getting? Are you eligible to get it? And I hope that for most people that watch this video, or that we talk to about this in any capacity, that the answer is yes, because any penny counts. We just need to make sure that we get enough.
On the bright side, people are at least getting something. On the downside, of course, there are also stipulations that were inserted into here that benefit people who don't necessarily need those benefits. But I will say this, if you're looking for a hobby, there is in fact a device that you can make for $1,200 with your check that can at least help you negotiate things with your landlord.
They're telling us to go eat cake, right? But I think, Suris, that you and I are probably going to have another conversation about this fairly soon, because we will see more bills come to pass, and they are going to be even larger than this. And yet, I still don't hear any Republicans saying, but how are we going to pay for that?
Almost as if the money has always been there as provided by your tax dollars. They just didn't want to help you.
If we have the largest economy ever and the most prosperous country on the history of the planet, I don't know of a reason that we can't weather this, right, Donald Trump? Shouldn't we be able to do this better than any country? Shouldn't we be able to show other countries that we're so great? One would think so.
Well, I think I would tell the reporter that said that to me that's a nasty question. That said, I do want to say, Nathaniel, thank you very much for your insight on this bill. It prevented me from having to go through the entire thing myself, because unfortunately nobody released an ASMR audiobook version of it, so I could at least tolerate the damn thing.
All right, I'll try. Well, the way that I get through it, Suris, is right here with a good Portland IPA, and you know what? That's good enough for me.
Hashtag not sponsored, unless you really want to. I mean, I may be a socialist, but if you want to do me a capitalist, I do have bills to pay.
That said, if you guys are ever so gracious, then why not go ahead and go check out Nathaniel Walters' channel that he runs with his partner. That is Divine Disbelief, and that is going to be in the description down below. It is a live stream style channel, so if you are in the mood for some interaction in your social isolation, then maybe you will be able to get some over there. That all said, I did want to thank you again, Nathaniel, for helping out with this.
Well, Suris, thank you for having me. It does mean a lot.
If you guys enjoyed the video, then please let me know in the comment section below, and also please hit the like button. Maybe consider supporting on Patreon if that's a thing that you can afford to do, and if you want to do it. And if you didn't like the video, you stopped watching halfway through and you've already told me in the comment section how much you hate me and how many times I'm going to get pulverized in the anus by high T individuals. Thank you very much for watching the video, and as always, insert end of video tagline here.